So you must be fairly pleased with yourself.
I'm feeling very, very pleased. Yes, I've often in the last few days used the image of being in labor. So I would say the baby is lovely, and she has all the right numbers of toes and fingers and ears and that sort of thing. And there's almost nothing that I can think of that I would change. And feels really fine.
So nothing you would change. What surprised you the most about the way it turned out?
Oh, gee, I could get emotional about this. What for me was such a privilege was just to be this sort of catalyst, to continue with the birthing. I was the midwife.
Right.
And, everything else was already there and gestating and just needed a little bit of, bringing alongside and support and a lot of, yes, you can do it. Actually, you are exactly the right person, and yours is exactly the right story to be told. So I think if there were any big surprises, for instance, with the first session, Sorry State, I had decided that if it were 50% what I had hoped, then that would be a good result. But instead, it was 300% what I thought it was going to be. At least.
You were crying.
Oh my goodness! I spent a good bit of yesterday crying, and what was so good as well is that there were some people there who were magnificently placed to add the leaven of humor. So just when it felt as if people in the room, and certainly people on stage, might be moving into their alarm zone, beyond discomfort to alarm, there was this humor going on, which just sends very different chemicals running through people's bodies, and it was perfect. And yet, it didn't feel planned. It just happened. I don't know what the best analogy is. The baby is more beautiful than ever I imagined we could all create.
Now tell me about the prayer, because that seemed like it came very naturally for you, but did you speak all those languages?
I speak some of them. I speak, read, and write English, French, and Spanish. My French is a little rusty these days, but some Arabic, and then there was Sanskrit and Japanese, which I don't speak at all. So I struggled with some of those, but we've actually been doing this for the last few years, and I'm a minister, so I sort of get this task, but I'm also work in a lot of contexts in other countries around the world, of secular contexts and multi-faith contexts. Sudan, Muslims and Hindus and Buddhists in Thailand and so on. So it's what I feel is if the prayer also had to mirror the inclusion themes of the conference. So I try and do it without it seeming ridiculous, but trying to draw heavily on native spirituality and the language of creation. Creation and food are two pretty common elements that people can, even if they are a-religious or unreligious, that they are able to connect with that at least a bit. And I hope that my invitation that I always issue in advance of it is that you can leave the room if you want. You can embrace it or not in whatever way you would like, and I realize the extent to which we often will open events. Certainly when our AHAC brothers and sisters are together, they start everything with sacred fire or something that acknowledges creation and acknowledges spirituality. And I would say that outside of the AHACs, it's one of the things that we could do to at least let in the door more and recognize as we are seeking health equity for our clients that we don't assume that the solution to what they see as religious-based depression is not just abandonment, but actually reimagining it as a tool in their toolbox for health and healing.
What do you think people coming out of the conference reimagine for themselves or for the CHC across Ontario?
One of the things that I think ended up happening really well is this balance of there was the let's put tools in our toolbox sort of approach in the workshops. It's also a time to say, hey, this is what we're doing that is really good. And so I think there was an affirmation of a chance to put on display, yes, we are. What Bob Gardner said is true, actually. We are ahead of the curve on this, and we can and ought to and already are to some extent providing leadership for the Ministry of Health and the LHINs on topics related to health equity and inclusion and the social determinants of health. But the plenary, and there were several points where both to the participants, particularly those who are coming from outside the sector, to say, that's not your job. You don't have to do that. You don't have to connect the dots for them. That's their responsibility. That's our responsibility as the sector. And what you're going to bring to us, and all of those who told their stories and reflected and allowed us to eavesdrop on their conversations and stories, we're bringing an experiential element that is novel. But I think that it's not sort of the tool. It's what I hope will be something that people will bring into their everyday work and practice. Is just a memory, maybe an inarticulate memory. But as experiential learning is about just getting it in that way that is immeasurable and not reducible to widget sort of metrics. But it's that place where it's sort of, oh, I get it. And I think a really important element of that was pedagogy of the privileged, to expose dominant culture people, nice, well-intentioned dominant culture folks, to the nature and depth and breadth of the work that is still ours to do. So I hope those are the sorts of things that people will draw on. The articulate, the measurable, and the inarticulate, the ones not so reducible to metrics.
Great. Okay, well, thank you for doing this, and thanks for being a good mother.
Yes, right, or midwife or something, yeah.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. And thank